Before we get started, there's a public chat channel you can use to communicate with each other. There's also a Q&A channel. I won't monitor the chat channel, so if you have a question, please paste the question in the Q&A channel. We'll try to keep an eye on that. If it makes sense to interrupt the conversation, we'll jump in on your questions then. If not, we'll address the questions in a session at the end of the webinar. Just a quick highlight for a couple items that are coming up. We have two webinars, one coming up on how to use and how not to use OTAs during the recovery phase. Most of you probably know Dan Lin. He was the CEO of Expedia APAC, and then later the AirAsia Expedia joint venture. He since has resigned from that role and has moved on and has founded his own startup focused on the hotel space called Zuzu. And he's a great low to the ground person to be giving advice on how are you going to use OTAs this recovery. I encourage you to check out that webinar if you're a hotel in Southeast Asia. Definitely going to be informative. And if you're a leader of any team, be sure to check out the Leading Yourself and Leading Teams in this time of crisis. We got Sam Neo from Singapore, along with Nat, our own HR leader, leading that webinar. So we'll go ahead and get started with today's session. I'm just going to provide some quick background to set up Anita's conversation. If you joined our webinar earlier this week on the COVID-19 situation and what we see happening with recovery, this will be a refresher. So what does MG think recovery looks like? You hear a lot of people talk about V-shape, U-shape, L-shape. We like to introduce a concept put forth by Art Kleiner. It's called Y-shape recovery, and that's how we think it's going to happen. And it's especially important for travel businesses to think about things in this Y-shaped recovery model. What is Y-shape? It's basically a really rapid downturn, but then the recovery happens for some businesses really fast, more like a V. But in other sectors, it's kind of a long, slow L. So that's why it's called a Y-shaped recovery. So some businesses like healthcare, pharma, online retailers. I mean, if you're Netflix or Tokopedia, you're just crushing it right now, right? Delivery companies, Alibaba, logistics. But other companies are going to take more time to recover and much more run the track of the slow Y. So airlines, hotels, travel agencies, automotive industry, or discretionary retail segments are going to take a little bit longer to recover. And really, this is a long-term game. So right now, we're in the middle of a lockdown phase. This is a 4-phase model that we've developed to help guide our thinking about the future. It's developed by looking at models from people like Philip at the Arrival event, also conversations with executives from Sabre, Booking.com. We've adapted those models and put together what we think the next 18 months looks like. Right now, we're in lockdown. There's essentially, all borders closed, very little volume opportunities for the next 2 to 4 months. Two would be optimistic, 4 would be pessimistic. Then we'll move into a restricted phase where travel resumes, but it's severely restricted. And really, it's going to be driven primarily by domestic. So if you're in a large domestic market, good news, things may start returning relatively quickly. Jakarta, Semarang could fare fairly well. Bali may be going to take a little bit longer. This is looking more at a regional leisure travel. Then the third phase is returning. Confidence begins to build, and then some focused international and regional traffic. And then finally into recovery. We don't think even in recovery, 12 to 18 months, we're still back up at 2019 levels. It's just going to take a long, long road to get back to where we were. So with that as some good introduction for the background of what's happening in the current crisis situation, one key question for hoteliers, especially in key inbound cities and markets, is when will the Chinese travelers return? We've heard a lot about, hey, there's green shoots in China and the market's beginning to recover. That's great, and it is happening the way we lay out in our model, which is beginning with domestic. But particularly if you're in these large inbound leisure markets like Bangkok, like Phuket, like Bali, you're really anxious to find out and understand when and how will the Chinese return happen. So I'm really happy to welcome today one of the foremost thought leaders on this topic, Anita Chan is the CEO of Compass Edge. They help hotels leverage the most, Southeast Asia hotels in particular, leverage the most out of the China opportunity. She spends 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, thinking about the China market and capitalizing on opportunities in Southeast Asia. So Anita, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Brett. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
I know that.
Yeah, just want to start out by laying some background on what's happening in China right now. Everyone says that demand's coming back, but what's actually the situation right now?
Actually, everyone's talking about China is normalizing. So what means by that is the first hot hit city by COVID-19, which is Wuhan, that got locked down in January 23rd. Actually, the restriction is eased on April 8th.
Oh, so that's no longer. Sorry, coming back.
Okay.
Bear with us.
So
we'll see if we can get Anita back. There you are.
Okay. So I will try again. Okay. So China is normalizing. So the first very hot hit city by COVID-19, which is Wuhan, got locked down on January 23rd, and actually the restriction has been eased on April 8th. So that's no longer any major city lockdown in China anymore. So for business, for companies that can work from home, like you and me right now, most of them return to normal in early March. For big manufacturing plants and everything, they are running at about 60% capacity. And the reason is because of transportation. The people, they need the labor to come back to the city to get working. But my guess is they will gradually resuming to about 80% by the end of April. And then just a few days ago, that's an announcement that schools in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou will all be reopened in April 27th. So that is what it means by China is normalizing, because the day-to-day life is getting back to normal. And we are a little bit more optimistic.
Looks like we lost Anita again. I think there must be everyone online in Hong Kong watching Netflix or stressing the network. We'll see if we can get Anita back. She was talking about the recovery and how things are beginning to come back. Around 87% of hotels, according to STR, now have reopened as of March 25th. So a really great number. We just saw recently some data in Indonesia that more than 1,200 hotels are closed. It's unclear whether that's only star rated or not, but if that's only star rated, it would be a really high percentage of the total number of star rated hotels. So I know a lot of markets, including Singapore, KL, and Thailand, have a lot of properties closed at the moment. Anita, looks like you're back. I was just jumping in talking about.
Yep, I'm back. Thank you.
Stats here.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we tested it all out. Yeah, during our rehearsal, everything's perfect, and then when it's live, then I got cut out. Anyway, I'll continue. I think you explained in our industry. That one is in end of March. So 87% of hotels in mainland China are open. So our guess is it will be more than 90% by the end of April, or even close to 95 and so. And as far as occupancy is concerned, you can see, that's from STR. Thank you for the report. It comes from the bottom low in around mid-February, about less than 10%, to now rising up to 25 to 30%. And actually, I just read from China Travel Daily that there's a hotel group called Atour, ATOUR, Atour. They are mid-scale China hotel chain that they have hotels in China targeting young middle-class Chinese. They have reported the group is running at 70% occupancy. So, that's great news, and that's what's happening in China. And for domestic travel in China, that's some proof that it's rebounding or recovering already. I took an interesting snapshot from Flight Radar 2 days ago at 2:30, similar time now. It's really peaceful in the sky for the rest of the world, but you can see all the yellow mass there is China. So you can see all the flights are flying in China already. So, that gives you an idea. While most of us think, no planes are flying, everyone's grounded and everything. You can see, the sky over China is a different, outlook. They are flying people. So, some may be returning home, for sure. Some may be traveling for business. Some maybe for small conferences, but some are actually traveling for leisure. Actually, the first Wuhan flight outbound is to Sanya. It's a China Eastern flight to Sanya, which is like a China Hawaiian resort destination. And that's the flight getting out, the first flight getting out from Wuhan.
Right. So it's kind of largely been a domestic comeback, and that's great to see. How we think it'll happen. But I think most of the people on this call are really eager to think about, when and how will travelers start moving about regionally again, and are there some markets you think are more likely to benefit first, and why?
Yeah, definitely. I wish I have the crystal ball. That's a really $1 million question. Donald Trump doesn't know the answer. So of course, Anita Chandlerson will have the answer for sure. But we can make some educated guess. There are a few conditions that need to be met before international travel can resume. First of all, the obvious one is just what I snap is the flight. Is flight accessibility. So they need to get to your destination. So, like flights has to be flying in the sky before you will see some recovery from any market. Then it's the quarantine travel restriction lift or ban. So, we always know Chinese are always money rich, but time poor. So they cannot go to a place to get quarantined for 14 days, play for 3 days and then go back to China and get another 14 days quarantine. That is like a month, time for like a 3 days play. So that's not going to happen. So that is, the restriction that need to get lifted. But the good news is the sentiment for Chinese to travel is positive. So, Frigi, which is the Alibaba travel platform, they ask people who cancel the trip. Sorry, the slide is moving too fast. I have to go back one. Yeah, thank you. So, that's the Frigi survey. That was done pretty, like more than a month ago. So they asked people who canceled the trip, asked the Chinese who canceled the trip, how likely are you going to reinstate the canceled trip? Actually, a good 55% say, I will consider going. Only 1/5, 21% say they're not going. So, that gives you a sense of the sentiment of Chinese who are really, eager to travel, even under, these circumstances. And then also...
kind of half empty, half full thing. I mean, I guess it's great that 55% said they're still going, but the bad news is like half of them are like, no, not sure. So maybe I like your positivity, the glass is half full. Really concerning to see a lot of them still, wondering if they will or saying that they won't. So.
Yeah, that's what I say. I will explain in more details. There are some more criteria. Like who will win. Which destination, which hotels will win. Will have some factor into how soon the recovery will be. And I will, talk about that, in the later conversation. But just getting onto the sentiment, that's another one, from China, like CTA, China Tourism Academy. That they say 72% of Chinese say they would travel as soon as the restriction is lifted. And again, I have to agree that is more for domestic travel. And I can actually talk about it because my company is working with a group of travel influencers, travel KOL, if you call them. and they are already, like one is going to Mongolia on a car tour, like a self-driving tour. One is going to Sanya, one is going to Dalian. Even the one in Shanghai that's not going anywhere, she take out her picnic placemat and go to a very exotic place and have picnic there to showcase. So they're actually really getting out, and that's like the likelihood that Chinese, in my view, will be kind of the first group of people that will travel. So on the estimate time frame, I have my own view. If other countries are in similar pattern as what China has gone through, so if China was locked down in late January, and then they kind of get things in control in some way in 2 months, like late March, and then domestic travel seems to come back in April and May, and if most other countries, similar, got a similar path, they got locked down in March, then they should get it in control in about 2 months. So around May, domestic travel can resume a little bit by June and July. And I know it's optimistic, but we can kind of expect some intra-regional travel from China as soon as, July, August, September, Q3, Q4. So it's not only me, who are making that optimistic guess. We have some data to support what we're talking about. Again, travel, China Daily, they ask people, how soon do you think, travel will recover? A lot of people, 60 some odd percent say in between 3 to 6 months, as soon as in June. Okay. And then another data, the MCR Research Institute also predict, a peak in Q3 and then carrying through to Q4. And then McKinsey, also, is less optimistic about the travel and tourism industry, but still believe that, it was gradually, going upside by late Q2. And so, from various data, we like to look at different data. We do not want to pick one that is most optimistic and just use it. But, from the general data pertaining to the China set, it looks like the rebound can happen as quickly as July, August, their summer holiday, if the rest of the world is ready. I need to say, that's the assumption. So, there are other factors that we can talk about. I see your next slide coming up, and we can talk a little bit about that.
There's a factor around China traveler kind of readiness to go abroad, and there's also the factor around which market has managed this crisis well, such that they would have to go there. So it might not be, I'll go regionally. It may be very kind of market or even destination selective, where they think it's been both been as well as will continue to be masterfully managed, right?
Yep. That's absolutely. I think first of all, before we talk about destination or specific property type or whatever, and what do Chinese care about post-COVID, I think now flexibility is a big winner. So I'm sorry to say, but the non-refundable rate discount strategy that we are so used to for years to attract people to book early, put in the money but not refundable. I'm sorry to say, but we may need to put those strategy out, throw it out of the window, because now nobody is going to book something that cannot be refunded, right? So I think that that is a major understanding in the hotel industry as well. That possibility.
You think that's here to stay?
No, I think you have to throw it out of the window. Like the non-refundable rates and everything. No one will book, flexibility will be the winner. No one is going to risk booking anything that cannot be refunded at this point of time, because they do not know, like we do not know when the cure, will appear. Okay, when this will be totally in control. But if they are early adopters that are willing to travel, then they need to have some kind of safety net.
I'm losing you a little bit, but
That
I haven't actually heard.
Uh,
I,
even
I haven't heard anyone say that before. I mean, I know that in this crisis situation, everyone's had to kind of drop the cancellation policy, right, and be flexible with it. It's just a necessity. Ah, lost her. But I haven't heard before that on a going forward, maybe not forever, but for the foreseeable future, um, flexibility around cancellation is just going to be a mandate, not an option. So I haven't heard anyone say that before. I don't know if others in this webinar have already considered that. I also think there's probably lots of things we can look at how the environment has changed for the domestic travelers. What are their expectations when they arrive at properties in the domestic market? How are they different around? I don't know what that might be, like sanitation, who stayed in the room, how is it clean? So there's probably some things we can learn about what's happening in the market domestically that can help us inform what the careabouts might be. And I can easily imagine, in addition to flexible cancellation, the Chinese traveler going to Bali for a holiday, may want to have some certification policy around how the room's been sanitized and how frequently. And I saw a Beijing hotel announce already, maybe all Beijing hotels will have to begin requiring a health certificate for check-in. So I don't know if this is something that will carry over into the regional markets as well. But if it becomes the norm for travelers in mainland China, they're going to also probably be more comfortable if it's a hotel in an international market that's also requiring that. Hey, Anita, we lost you. I was just talking about the Beijing, I think Beijing government or central government announcing you want to come stay in a Beijing hotel beginning on some date, it may be already in effect. You have to have a health certificate to check in, right? So I don't know if this becomes the standard in all hotels in China, but if it does, it'll become the new normal for Chinese travelers. And when they go to international markets, maybe they'll be wondering, why isn't this hotel checking people's medical certificates? Is it not safe? So I was just trying to fill the space while you were out anyway, thinking about possible care about saying we can use what's happening in the domestic market now to kind of predict what are the things that Chinese travelers might also expect in the international properties.
Yeah, absolutely. Even before COVID-19, safety is always the number one selection criteria already. So, they want to go to destination that they feel safe. So other than, check in, like I do not know if health certificate, is really available or is it if it can be implemented or not. But at least, I think the destination that they would choose to is somewhere that they feel if they get sick, they will have good medical, like good hospital, they will have a safety net. They feel in case they get sick, they will be well taken care of. So that's the number one criteria. Sometimes when they look for the destination. So again, I hope I did not get cut off and I can continue. So, but anyway, I'm going to talk about three trends. One is the ambient wellness. So we're talking about the physical space. As you mentioned, in China, hotels are beginning to use robots, okay, to deliver contactless room service. Okay, so they try to do things to make sure that the physical, not just the room, but the physical area. Now we learn about the Diamond Princess cruise ship, scenario. People are now actually hesitant to walk through a corridor, a narrow corridor with people. Okay, so all those are not just talking about just handing out hand sanitizer or getting you some sprayed or that is more than that. People are now more cautious into public space. So those are the things that people are going into to look at your destination, your hotel as a whole, not just a room or specific area, on how clean, the hygiene factor and how the well-being that you're taking care of your guests. So that's one trend that is going to be in people's mind. I think it will lax up, after we find a cure, whatever. But in the short time, like 12 to 18 months, I think it's really on top of everyone's mind. And the next one, is actually, other than physical well-being, is actually the wellness, the mental well-being. Okay, so we have to bear in mind that China had gone through the lockdown since late January, so much longer than the rest of the world. So their burnout is real. We have to show some understanding and empathy to win the Chinese travelers. No one wants to walk in or want to go on the vacation feeling unwelcome. So I know it's a sensitive topic because, Chinese travelers may not be the most well-liked, people right now. But we really need to get out of the psychological barrier and make them feel welcome, or they will go elsewhere. And we talk about Chinese are very outspoken. And they're very sensitive too. So somehow, if they feel that they are unwelcome, then they post something on social media, whatever, that will have a long-term negative impact for the destination and for the hotel. So that is something that a lot of people not to choose to talk about. But for me, I just talk about anything. So this is something that I think hotel needs to take, needs to remember, to make them feel welcome, because they do have the burnout. And then one more trend that I want to talk about is now a lot.
I don't hear much about people not. I mean, before when the Chinese traveler movement was at its peak, maybe there's so many and they're coming, and we took them for granted, and everybody wants to complain. There's too many. I don't like the way they do this or that. But I really think very quickly after they were gone, suddenly everyone was like, "Oh my God, I missed them so much." And I don't think anybody doesn't want to welcome them back with open arms. And maybe a lot of people realize, like, wow, we really took that for granted, didn't appreciate for what an amazing thing the Chinese traveler is.
Yeah, we can ask the audience. We can ask the audience for the honest feedback, because I sense in the beginning of COVID-19, like hotels are really showing the empathy for the Chinese and really supportive. But now when COVID-19 is hitting the rest of the world, some people get angry and about like how, why, and all that kind of thing. So there has been some negative sentiments in the marketplace. So but that's something that we need to be aware of. Okay, for us, we're in the hospitality industry. We are, friendly people, and we just want to make sure, we service everyone equally. But that is, honestly, something that I can sense that the sentiment is changing a little bit. But as long as we are all aware, especially the leaders here, understand. From top down, filter down, and be aware of this, then I think everyone is okay. And one more trend that I want to talk about is assisted development. Like when Chinese travel, they want to learn something. Okay, that is the trend, and they want to be better themselves. So to us, that is called the new luxury. Okay, so but I'm not talking about just personal development like a cooking class or a yoga class. That's something that we need to go deeper in that. For example, cooking class, they want to learn how to cook, but it's not like, the gimmick thing, like I put all the ingredients and you put it together kind of thing. There are more deep dive into, for example, text the chef. So if you have any question about the dishes or whatever, if you want to know, the tips, to get inspiration, whatever, that's something called Text the Chef, program. Or if you are into the yoga, mediation, Chinese are setting goals, challenges and things like that. And, for that, they want to make it meaningful. So I think that is more so post COVID-19 that they want to be a better themselves. So whoever then come up with or assist in personal development of the Chinese tourists will be the winner too. So I just want to quickly show a survey, another data that a lot of people are surprised and say, Chinese got locked down for 2 months. They don't have work, and how come they still got all the money and they still want to travel and everything. So that was a survey, that may shock a lot of people, that 49% of Chinese female say post COVID-19, they actually want to live the moment. Okay, they really treasure what what they have, and they would want to spend money on what is worthwhile to spend now. Okay, so back to your question, who would be the winner is we have to make our destination feel, make them feel it's worthwhile to come to our destination. We as a property has to make them feel it's worthwhile to come to our property. Okay, so that is on top of what I talked about, the personal development, the assisted development thing, is they need to feel like they learn something, you enrich them, and that will be the new trend after post COVID-19. Sorry, I moved too fast. Okay. So for top destination, I will quickly, actually it's good. Okay, for top destination, I prepared for you guys the survey from C-Trip. Okay, I hope your screen can see it quite clearly. They divided into domestic market. One is how people search. One is how people vote. So search and vote, can have different results. So you can see who are the top 10 destinations, on C-Trip. So, congratulations to Thailand, Japan, and some Asian countries and things like that. This list keeps on changing in my mind because when we ourselves asked some Chinese about a month ago, what are their top destinations, a lot come back and say they want to go to places with hot weather, okay? Because at the time, they believe that hot weather can kill COVID-19, okay? And now with more and more study showing that actually hot weather doesn't kill COVID-19, it will still exist there. So now the hot destination become more a personal preference than a high consideration factor. And then we talk about social distancing. Okay, so for me, my personal view is boutique properties, or even remote destination that is like in a hideaway property before, or island resorts can be top destination and good potential, properties to get, the rebound. So that is more from C-Trip. And I have also prepared another survey, which is from PATA and CCT. Is China come for to see the difference, and definitely okay, and the is connected with T just okay for tourism. Targeting group segment or package tours, not as much as like C-Trip online FIT segment. So you can see the destination is a little bit different. And actually when in that specific report, the estimated timeline for recovery is much longer, but it's logical because now people do not want to travel in group, with unknown or strangers, with people that they do not know. So, and also, that's something that, that we realized as well, that when China got locked down on January 24th, they blocked all group travel and even package tour right away. And actually that restriction hasn't been released yet. So they still cannot have group tour.
Yeah, I mean, even if they release that restriction, who wants to join a group unless it's like you and your college roommates? I mean, your family. Who wants to join a trip of strangers in 2020, right?
What matters.
Oh, I lost Anita. We'll keep running along. I'll keep tap dancing. This is like the question I needed her here for, which was if you were a hotel GM in Southeast Asia, what would you be focused on during this lockdown period, to best position yourself to outperform when the Chinese travelers do come back? Some of the things we were talking about on the call on Tuesday, unrelated to Chinese travelers specifically, was the idea that people are just going to want space, and people don't want to touch anything. So everything from how are you going to certify your hotel as being safe, and how do you set the standards around that, to hey, I have mobile enabled check-in. You don't have to go and talk to anybody or touch anybody at the check-in desk. You can use your mobile phone to open the door. You don't need to touch a card key. So maybe it's like that kind of touchless type experience. Hey, Anita, we lost you. Looks like you're back. We just I was trying to make conversation. We just moved into the question that everyone's probably most excited to hear answers on, which was, if you're a hotel GM in Southeast Asia, what are you focused on during this kind of downtime? So you said, optimistically, maybe late June, July, August, the volume starts coming back. What can GMs be doing now during this period to help them prepare for the return?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm now trying to log in faster when I got kicked out. But anyway, I just overheard you talk about something. I overheard something that you talk about that I want to talk about as well. There's a lot of things that hotels can do now. For example, operation-wise, China is going into what they call e-commerce. I just mentioned that that's the robot providing contactless room service, delivery. They are using the UV light robot to disinfect in public areas. So those are the things that they are used to. So they will kind of expect that they will see it in the rest of the world. So that's something hotels GM can think about it, but not even in that kind of investment or the bigger scheme of things. You say how to automate check-in. Okay, they do not want to stand with a lot of people around them. They do not want to touch a lot of things. And those are the contactless touch point. Okay, people think, oh, then will I miss out the personal touch? But to us, that's customization. So you give them a choice. Whether you want to use a QR code, you fill out the information and check in, or you want to have some, your butler, accompany you to the room to do check-in, whatever. It's up to you. But at least you give them a choice that they do not need to stand in the crowd and to be among a lot of people to do things that they may be okay to do before, but now may not be as comfortable. So that is the e-commerce that we talk about. And then, not for China, but, probably a lot of the hotels right now are doing food delivery. Okay, and I suspect that trend is going to continue for a little while as well. So, before, as we are hotelier, we do not put all the best item on the room service menu. Okay, because we want people to experience the restaurant and want them to dine in. But then, now maybe it's time for you to think about, should I ramp up the room service menu? Okay, should I make it an in-room dining experience? So, people will see it as an advantage to come and stay at my hotel, that I will have the candlelight at the balcony and things like that. And also, if you are lucky enough to have, a lot of space, it's time for you to think about the rearrangement of the restaurant seating. Okay, facing on one side, we all heard it from the government, with the 1.5 meter kind of distance, so everyone feels comfortable. So it may be now time to think about, how that setup can be in place. And then I'm going to talk about something that I'm more familiar with. Okay, talk about marketing. Okay, so I'm just sharing you a slide to show you. During COVID-19 period, actually the daily active user and the daily time spent online has increased. So now I think that's a trend that everyone is like, oh, of course, it happened to me, it happened to you. So now people can see it. But that is, the people are spending more time online. So that's a comparison, about 21% as compared to before the COVID-19. Okay, and what do people do of course, they go on social media. So on this screen, it shows you that Chinese want to go social during COVID-19. 42% say, okay, much more. Okay, 40% say more. So altogether, like 82% of people saying that they're spending much more time on social media. So what do they spend on? On the normal messaging app, QQ and Momo, but also on WeChat, Weibo, and Xiaohongshu Literate Book. Okay, what is interesting observation that I take from this slide is Literate Book, Xiaohongshu, is actually a lifestyle platform. It is not so much COVID-19 information. It is more, normal lifestyle stuff. And you can see that's a huge increase. So, I talked about COVID-19 info fatigue. Okay, they have heard about COVID-19 information for like 2 months, and that's enough. Okay, so they want to have more relaxing lifestyle content now. So that's the reason why those lifestyle app is feeling it is increasing, and that was like a month ago. So actually now when we go to China's social media, you seldom see COVID-19 information. Okay, honestly, people are talking about good news. There's no new infections. People are returning normal, hospital closing. But more people are talking about, oh, now you got those consumption voucher, where to spend the money. Where should I go? Where should I do? So, what kind of food, that I have been, like locked down for so long. I want to go out to have the hot pot again or whatever. Okay, not saying whether it's right or wrong. Okay, but they are talking and planning on what to go out to do. So that is media space, anything now. Well, no, not waiting. Can you still see me? Because I'm getting a heading telling me I'm logging out now.
I can still hear and see you. So, oh, I spoke too soon. So anyway, I will keep going, and she's really good at getting back in. So I'm going to hope she's going to be back really fast. OTAs, I don't really know how to talk. We'll have to come back to this slide so you can talk through the idea of OTAs. But one of the concepts we talked about during the recovery mode is that OTA is going to be super important in the early days of recovery. It's just a natural fit with people not wanting to go out. Number one. Number two, they're naturally big sources of volume. So as important as OTAs were in the pre-COVID days, I think during the early days of recovery, OTA is going to be even more important. So it's going to be critical that GMs, get a mix of OTAs and don't become suddenly completely dependent upon one of them for the Chinese volume. I can see Anita's back. Thank you for saving me. I just looked at your but didn't know the narration, so I was dancing for you. I may have to dance some more. It looks like we lost Anita again, so I'm just going to keep going. Are there certain specific segments we think they're going to start traveling to Southeast Asia before others? And how can hotels target or reach these segments? One segment that's going to be, I think, will be first. It may not be the most exciting segment, but there's a huge amount of business traffic between some key corridors in China and Southeast Asia. As soon as it's considered endorsed by the government to travel between those two city pairs, you can be sure that corporate travel will return. So particularly between China, Indonesia, China, Malaysia, China, Singapore, there is a lot of back and forth business travel. Throughout Southeast Asia, no doubt, there's a lot of China corporate traffic. But in particular, in those markets, there's just a large amount. And if you're fortunate enough to be someone who targets the Chinese corporate traveler, I was just on a call yesterday with Michael, the GM of the Saputra in Jakarta. And he can't wait for the Chinese travelers to come back. It's a big important segment for him. And definitely one of the earliest segments back will be that business travel segment, who now cannot travel. But as soon as they feel the governments are saying it's okay to travel between those two places, for sure they're going to want to go back. So I think being a hotel who can meet whatever the standards are for those travelers to return, and some marketing around travel with confidence around your sanitation, social distancing, etc. in your property is going to be useful. Looks
Hi,
like
Brett.
Anita's coming back in. Hopefully she's going to help me out with what other segments. Anita, I was just talking about the fact that corporate, in addition to corporate coming back first domestically, corporate will also be one of those segments that as soon as the governments say it's okay to go between China and Singapore, you can be sure they'll be going. KL to China for sure. There'll be business travel that will resume. So that's definitely one segment to look out for coming on. Are there other specific segments that you think are going to be leading the launch of travel into the region? I'm just catching a little.
I don't continue. Okay, but anyway, you talk about corporate, domestic market first. Okay, staycation for the Singapore market is showing some, good indication. As I mentioned earlier, if you have a heavy mix of group tour, that's not going to be good news. Okay, that is going to be the last one to come back. The Chinese FIT segment is definitely one segment, and then if we are focusing on the leisure market, it's definitely young Chinese traveler. They are more the fearless type that are willing to go in and do things. And I think I missed one slide, because I was being kicked out. But I do want to go back to that one slide and talk about not this one, but the secret one, because. Yeah, that is the one. Okay, because this one may be interesting to a lot of people, and that answered the question too, to determine who is going to travel first or what market segment. Because you can see C-Trip is already doing what they call the V Plan campaign. It's for future business. They call it, what do they call? They call it Schedule Your Future Trips. Okay, campaign. So with full refundable, but with 40 to 80% discount. Okay, wow. So unfortunately, what I want to say is China is still a very price-sensitive market. So I do not know if they're getting how much subsidies from government or whoever, but they are really using discount pricing to attract people to travel, and that is if C-Trip is doing something like that for the domestic market now, I will not doubt that it will launch for the international market whenever the time is right. So unfortunately, that will be the price-driven segment, which is FIT to go first. But for my own opinion, I do not like a rate discounting strategy, as many hoteliers know me. But I want to share is I have come to know a few even major hotel chain that are doing something quite good, that they are asking people to buy cash voucher. Okay, so you pay $70 and then you get $100 worth of cash voucher that you can use for future rooms or F&B, usage, whatever. So they do not actually discount the rate. You book the rate that they put in at that point in time. But if you put in the cash now, pay now, then you get kind of a 30% or 40% discount. Okay, so I think that's a smart strategy, and I come across not only one big chain does it, a lot of bigger chains does it as well. They are using this strategy to try to attract people to book in. Fully refundable. I don't think it's fully refundable for this one. It's cash, but they can use it not just on room, but on F&B, on spa, on other things. Then you do not need to worry about discounting because your price will be what you want to be. Only if you support them now, then you get that, kind of the cash discount. So I want to say, those are the creative ways that OTAs or major brands are doing to attract people for the early adopters to try to travel first. So that answered back your question on like which market segment. For business segment that I heard you talk about, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, China, whatever. I just want to bring out a slightly different view, if you do not mind, because now that we are all very used to work from home, having Zoom or your big market or whatever, doing business and everything. So a lot of people question and say, like, will business travel be the same as before? That's another topic. That's definitely not to discuss it right here. But that gives me thinking as well, as to say, okay, like before we travel like 4 times for a conference or for face-to-face meeting. Is that something that will continue to happen, or at least going to happen in the next 2 years before the cure is ready? So that is something that I think it'll be interesting to know as well, and not to rely on just one segment, but to spread your eggs into different baskets, different nationalities, different segments, to come up with your own strategy.
I think it's a super important point, so let's spend some time on it. One is if you're waiting for group travel to come back, forget about it. Corporate group, forget about it. Not in the near term. If that's been your target and you're hanging around waiting for that to return, you better find a new target. Two, I think no doubt people will still travel for business. It's a certainty they will travel less. So we learned better how to do business remotely, and we're going to come out better business people, right? We know how to do things that can be done remotely, and we'll also get different kinds of value and better value out of the time we spend together. So I do still think people will travel. The numbers will just be smaller. The other
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you will. I think you will. It will be. It will. It will continue. But is it going to be? The segment to save the world. I really have that doubt in my mind. That corporate travelers, may be, leaning towards less travel, and at least in the next 12 to 18 months before the dust settle. We can some change. I may be wrong, but that's thinking about is different, all different segments to solely on a particular market segment, and that would be the safe bet.
Yeah, I think there's some cities and some properties where maybe there's a big infrastructure project going on, and China is maybe one of the main funders or drivers of that infrastructure project. I can think of several of those in Indonesia, or Japanese factory in different countries, or Chinese factory where this is places where people are waiting to come back, and some hotels get a lot of their business just from those kind of either overseas owned and led businesses or infrastructure projects that are underway. So those might be some of the early benefactors. And then the industries that we know are going to perform well in that Y. So construction, the IT companies, business travel. All of those companies that are on the fast track of the Y are likely to come back with their corporate travel faster.
Yep, absolutely.
So keep going?
Yeah, just keep going.
Yep. So when you move into this early days of recovery, I mentioned that I think OTA is going to be super important, but what are you telling your hoteliers in Southeast Asia about how should they think about distribution strategy in the early days? Bed banks for sure. Thanks for the shout out, Anita. I know you were going to say that. No, but seriously, what are you telling your hotels about their distribution strategy other than don't discount for that?
Yeah, don't discount. Yeah, or provide incentive. Do not discount in a plain discount rate. But in China, okay, we always say OTA is very important. 91% of people book by OTA, and we cannot. It's more than any other nationality. So OTA is definitely important. But when and then you see how the OTA, like Ctrip play, it's mainly by driving campaigns with huge discount. So you can kind of expect that. But for those who are a little bit more knowledgeable in the China market, Ctrip is not actually an online agency. They have thousands of travel agency stores, okay, all over China. So they are traditional, agency as well. Although they are online, but they also have traditional agency that people can walk in, can talk to people. So Ctrip actually work with traditional agency as well, wholesaler, banks, and everyone, to gather the best inventory, the best rate, and then they push it out on the platform. So that is definitely, one distribution strategy that is very important. For big brands, as I just mentioned, they will build on their loyalty program, loyalty member. I've seen a few of them already giving out exclusive deals and try to drive future direct bookings. But like I mentioned in the beginning, flexibility is most important. I've never seen one that they say you cannot cancel it or you cannot, get the refund. So they will build on the loyalty. And then I think I was cut off. One point I want to bring back is customer engagement. Okay, I think repeated guests, like who stayed with you before, okay, are the segment that we can, kind of target as well. For example, Chinese, they leave you with their phone number, you can connect them with WeChat. About a month ago, my company, my team does a webinar and telling people, to engage with their current Chinese customer and ask them how they're doing, what can we do to welcome you back, those kind of things. That is a month ago. So we tell them, do not push hard, do not give them tactical offer or promotional offer at the time. But now, it is like a month after, we feel that, the Chinese market is actually ready for those promotional offer. Okay, it will keep them thinking, in the planning or inspiration stage, where to go and what to plan for. So I think, as I say, it changes every time, but now is the time that you can have two strategy. One for the rest of the world, is to continue to show your empathy. But for the China market, it's more going into a little bit of, sales and marketing in that promotional manner. So I think that is, coming in different stages on the strategy. So whoever can do better marketing and promotion can achieve faster recovery.
Okay, great, thanks. Maybe we're running now to the end of time. Maybe we talk about take some of the Q&A. So I've just been kind of going through, taking a look. One of the things we talked about a little bit, but maybe we want to be more specific in a really quick response. Lillian's asking about what are the changes in terms of hotel features that you think Chinese travelers are going to want? I mean, other than just hand sanitizer or I want the room to be clean. What are some of the things that you think, like day one when they show up at hotels in KL or Bali or Ho Chi Minh, Phuket? What are they going to be looking for?
Yeah, as I mentioned, is the entire physical ambience. Okay, so it's not just a physical item to hand out, but you need to position your hotel in a way that they feel the hygiene is on the highest level, and like even some precautionary measures, like taking temperature, and the distancing, okay, is well in place in the hotel. So they need to have a comfort level that those features are being highlighted and being valued at your hotel, then they will be comfortable staying at your hotel.
Okay, great. Next question, Indo. Indo's asking you to just kind of take a shot. Don't think about it too long. The opening of markets is a two-way street, right? So let's assume that China travelers are ready to go, but it also has to be the case that the other receiving markets are also open and ready to receive, right? So if you had a name and order, first three, what do you think are the first three markets that begin to see traffic between in between the two countries, China and which three?
Okay. The first one will be Maldives. Okay. You may surprise you, but the president of the Maldives actually made an announcement saying that they are considering opening up the Southeast Asia travelers, including China, by the end of April. We think that is optimistic, but because Maldives is one island, one resort. So in a way, if you think about it, people feel safe because, going to one place and that's it, right? So, and then, consider Maldives, 100% are driven by tourist, income, that hurts them the most. So Maldives will be number one, and that match with the top destination that Chinese will book into. Thailand, for sure. Okay. Thailand, I know there's a lot of Thailand hoteliers here. And I think if we all do a better job to contain COVID-19 and send out a message that, we know how to contain and we know how to control that, I think Thailand will be one of the fastest market that Chinese will go back to. They are comfortable before on FIT, it's on the top list. On the C-Trip survey, is on the top list on the partner survey. So Thailand is definitely on the top list. And then we heard about Vietnam, we heard about, other city or other countries that is not on the top destination. But like right now, I would still think Japan will be the third one. Again, is on both surveys, and Chinese just like to go to Japan. So at that time, I think people want to go to Japan because of the Olympics. Now that it has been delayed for 1 year, I do not know, the percentage will be that high, but still it always remains as one of the top destinations. So, if you ask me, just three will be Maldives, Thailand, and Japan.
Great. And let me just throw in last question. We got a lot of great questions. Question, tough for me to decide which one, but maybe we talked about, maybe I'll give you three, but you have to answer quickly. With C-Trip,
Okay.
you mentioned C-Trip's going to be a great opportunity, an important one. Should you be working directly with C-Trip or going through some partner? How do you suggest that hotels engage with C-Trip? Direct engagement?
Yeah, we always recommend hotels if you are oops.
You're good. I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So, we always recommend hotel if they can, if they have a country manager, whatever, work with C-Trip because they have some program, specific program that they have. But also, as I mentioned, C-Trip work with a lot of other partners. So, you will be on C-Trip no matter what.
Okay. And last question, maybe somewhat unrelated, but when do you think Europe is going to open up for Chinese tourism to return? How far is that inside 2020, or do you think this is going to be next year?
Yeah, for Europe, in the PATA survey, is on number 3 that people do want to travel to Europe. But again, I don't have the crystal ball. I do not want to, like we say, put out the helmet, so to speak. But like right now, people are a little bit worried about the situation in Europe from the medical, as I mentioned on the medical service side. They do not, a lot of Chinese students actually, return from, UK or somewhere back to China because they think now China is safer than Europe. So depending on how the situation is contained in Europe, and that will determine the timeliness. But for me, I would say end of 2020, at least will be much longer than the intra Southeast Asian region. So if our crystal ball is good, that people will travel regionally here in Southeast Asia by July, August, then I think November, December will be the likelihood that people will travel to Europe.
I mean, I think just like Southeast Asia doesn't really mean anything actually when you think about this restarting, and Europe as a group is the same. I think it's going to be very selective. It's like okay, we think Thailand's safe, it's fine. We think this other country doesn't have it under control, nobody's going there. And Europe will be the same, so it won't be all of Europe. It'll be, okay, we think UK's got this managed well and has good policies and can take care of me without problem. I'll go there. But this other country, I don't want to name any countries for bad. This other country doesn't have it under control. It's in Europe, but
Yeah,
we would never.
yeah, but UK got the advantage because there are a lot of Chinese students going to UK. So, whether you like it or not, they have to return to Europe, and then the parents, their friends, whatever, will go because of schooling. So, they kind of get a advantage. If the school open in September and everything's back to normal in some sense, then that can happen faster than the more leisure market. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, thanks, Anita. We're at the end of our time. I really appreciate you sharing your insights on the return of the Chinese traveler. Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Thank you for your support. Thank you. Bye-bye.